guys, and welcome back to my channel, and welcome back to Speak Freely, here where we celebrate the freedom of speech. And today I want to talk about the police brutality problem.
First things first, I'ma say all the words.
So when I talk about police brutality problem, I'm not saying that with a period, I am saying that with a question mark. Is there a police brutality problem or issue? And I think if you talk to some people in the black community, people on the left, progressives, will say definitely yes. Police officers are hella racist, and they're out there hunting down young black men to take their lives away, to destroy the black community. That's probably the answer that you get in return. I, on the other hand, do think there is a police problem, but I think looking at the race issue is very short-sighted, and you're not actually getting to the root of the issue that I believe exist. First of all, do I think there's an epidemic? I don't necessarily think I don't think there's an epidemic, and I don't think the mass majority of police officers are racist or anything like that. I don't think that they're purposely loading their guns every morning going, I'm gonna go make sure I kill a black person today. I don't think that's an issue, but I do believe there's an issue in a police force. And I've always said that I think that the training that they go through needs to change, and I think the evaluation that they have to go through to even be approved to go through the training, I think that needs to change. I think it needs to be restructured. I think that there are some men and women who carry badges and guns that should not have badges and guns. And again, in my opinion, this has nothing to do with racism. And I do want to say, and I want to make it very clear, I'm not a police officer. I am not super educated about the police force or anything like that. This is some of my own feelings and my own evaluation, my own perspective, my own just observation, and then my own reading and the research that I have personally done. Okay, there is a personality test usually, or evaluation of personality and characteristics before police officers are allowed to become police officers, and that is the thing that I think needs to change. I read a link, and I read a couple of links that has this rotten apple or rotten barrel theory when it comes to the police force, and the one that I'm reading is from linkspringer.com, but there are other articles that actually talk about this. And the title of the article is "The Psychopathic Police Personality. Is it a product of the rotten apple or rotten barrel syndrome?" And this is the sort of theory of the rotten apple. The rotten apple theory states that deviant police officers are those whose psychological testing fails to screen out. So these psychological tests fail to screen these police officers out. This concept is favored by police administrators because it offers a quick and easy solution to police deviant behavior. However, there is a growing body of literature that suggests that it is the stressful occupation that is policing that is the fertile soil from which police deviant behavior springs, otherwise known as the rotten barrel theory. So the theory is that, and I'll read some other articles, but I've read a few articles that say that there are certain occupations that have psychopathic or sociopathic tendencies or traits that they tend to gravitate to, and law enforcement is a big one. And so people who have these traits, even if they haven't manifested itself, if they haven't shown itself, even if they're not consciously aware of it, or anyone else around them are consciously aware of it, they will still tend to gravitate towards these sort of occupations. And then the fact that being a police officer is stressful and anxiety ridden, that is something that can trigger that personality type, or the fact that they have authority can trigger that personality type, the fact that they have power. It has nothing to personally do with whether someone is racist or not. Granted, if someone is racist and they have that tendency, that would make them even dangerous. But this is the reason why I think it's very, very short-sighted to focus on racism and these sensitivity courses that police officers are going through, when you are failing to screen out police officers or law enforcement who potentially have these personality traits. The next article that I'm going to read is from truthout.org, and the title of this one is "Evaluating Police Psychology, Who Passes the Test?" So in one of the parts of this article, reads "Psychological evaluation lacks mandates and stabilization." They state, because states regulate how municipal departments operate, typically by creating state commissions or academics to determine hiring and training standards, there is currently there are no national standards for how police recruits candidates, how they are psychologically evaluated, or even whether or not evaluation should be mandatory. So there's not even a mandatory mandate that say all police officers or all candidates who are being recruited have to go through a psychological or personality evaluation, but the ones who do, there are no standards. There's no one standard that has been mandated for all departments or police forces to have to test or evaluate the incoming trainees or potential police officers. So I did read before that it's not mandatory that they go through psychological tests, but psychological evaluations remain a common requirement throughout most large police departments. But because of the inconsistent protocols or unstable protocols when it comes to psychological evaluations, this inconsistency leads itself to a kind of loophole in which one psychologist may determine that an applicant is unsuitable, but another will say that he's totally fine. Using different assessment tools may determine just the opposite, potentially allowing applicants with violent tendencies into police ranks. Furthermore, the personality assessment routinely used by psychologists vary greatly in their design, predictive vitality, and their traits of target behaviors how target behaviors are measured. Not every test is used to specifically design with police applicants in mind, and not all tests is designed to identify traits such as aggression in police candidates. So basically, you should probably have a separate sort of personality or psychological testing when it comes to police officers, being that there have been known that people with certain psychopathic or sociopathic tendencies tend to gravitate to the police force as a career, as a job. Evaluating someone who wants to become a teacher and evaluating someone who wants to be a police officer, you might have maybe different questions or standards for each job that these applicants are applying for. Another problem researchers point out is that the simple fact that an applicant can lie on their test, answering questions in a way that purposely paints the candidate in a more positive test. And because of this, they should just have different assessment, different type of tests, different type of questionnaires, and maybe even go through multiple testing to try to weed out the people who are lying. Even the psychologists who work with the police departments are calling for mandatory, strict, sort of a standardized evaluation across the national board for every police force to go by, because they're saying it's unstable, it's not mandatory, we need to have certain protocols and certain questions for people who want to become police officers. And that has been my point all the time. Anytime I've seen someone talk about police brutality, I always felt like we are being short-sighted by talking about race or racism. I do think there's a bigger problem with, like, there's some people where you're like, I don't get how that person ever got a badge, I don't get how that person ever got a gun. How do they get past the training? Is because they need a different sort of type of psychological personality test to evaluate these people, to weed out these people who have sociopathic or psychopathic tendencies, or even aggressive tendencies, or a tendency for power or authoritarianism, to weed out the people who have those sort of character traits or personality traits or psychological traits. I always felt like there was a problem. Again, I am not a scholar when it comes to the police force, and I'm definitely not a scholar when it comes to psychological disorders and stuff like that. But I do read a lot, and I do observe, and I do watch things and read articles, and I've always felt like that was a problem. And again, focusing on racism is short-sighted, and we are missing a bigger problem. I do also want to state that I am not saying all police officers are like this. I am not saying most, and I'm not even saying half. I'm saying it's enough that we need to go back to the testing and go back to the training and go back to the evaluation, and something needs to be done about that.
Hey guys, just to let you know, I'm doing voiceover from now on because my battery ran out and then I lost light, and so I just want to get this video out, so I apologize for that. So let's talk about the race issue for a second, because I did hear this in someone else's YouTube video where they talked about learned biases. And is it possible that police officers who aren't racist, who didn't go into the force with a bias, can learn a bias just by who or what they're doing in their job. Let's say a police officer mainly focuses on certain urban areas where there's a lot of gang related activity, a lot of crime, a lot of stealing and murder and stuff like that. And because of the area that he is majority black, he learns a bias. He learns his bias to do his job better, and he learns his bias to protect himself. If all he ever sees every time he goes out and all the crimes that are committed because of the area that he's in is done by black people, then he may learn to look for that type of, or look for someone who fits that role, because that's what that person sees, he or she, as a police officer. I'm not just saying male police officers do this, and I think that's understandable, and that's logical in a sense. Like, people may say the same thing if, for the opposite, if someone who grew up in a neighborhood where police officers are only looking for a certain type of character to arrest, or who may have caused that crime, or who may cause a crime, and then they're constantly just stopping, and maybe they have been stopped by police officers multiple times when they have not caused a crime, they may develop a learned bias towards police officers. It kind of goes both ways. Now, you may say the police officer should know better because they have authority, they have a badge, they have a gun, they've been through training, and the other person who may have a bias towards the police officers is a civilian. You can expect them to look at a situation differently. I don't know if I'm using the right verbiage for this, but yeah, a bias can be unlearned. Police officers can be trained not to be biased. They can be trained to unbias themselves. So that can be unlearned. But others might argue then it's sort of an uphill battle, because you give these police officers sensitivity courses, and you try to train them not to be biased. You try to teach them how to unlearn their biases. But then when they go back out to the police force, if they're still surrounded and they're still working in those same areas where, if it's majority black, and then all the crimes, the majority of the crimes that they are seen being done, then that it's kind of hard, because then it's like, if you like, let's put yourself in a situation, like, let's say a different situation. Let's say you work in a majority Asian community, okay? And majority of the crimes you see are by Asians, because it's an Asian community. Majority of the situations you feel like your life is in danger, you have been put in that situation by Asians, because this is an Asian community. It would almost seem illogical to go into a situation and look for a Hispanic person where 99.9% of the times it's not a Hispanic person, it's an Asian person. So to be more efficient and to feel like you are keeping your life safe, you're going to look for the most likely candidate who will cause that crime. And since 99% of the time you go out into the field, it's an Asian person who is committing that crime, you are most likely going to look for an Asian person. Now, again, this is hypothetical. I don't want anyone coming saying that I'm saying Asians commit a lot of crimes. I am not even saying black people, the majority of black people commit crimes. Yes, statistically, and as a whole, black people commit more crimes. But again, I think people hear that and they hear majority of black people commit crimes. That's not what that number says. And I don't have the number on me right now, but it's more. The majority of black people are good, upstanding citizens. It just means when you take the crime statistics as a whole, black people commit more crimes. Not all crimes. Some crimes white people commit more. Some crimes other races commit more. But anyway, that's not the point of this video. So I kind of think that it is logical to think that if a police officer is going out into a majority black community, a black neighborhood, and if this black neighborhood is like a low income neighborhood, maybe there's a lot of gang, maybe there's a lot of violence, maybe there's a lot of theft, and 99% of the time when they go out, because it is a overwhelmingly majority black neighborhood, that is going to be the corporate. So it almost makes logical sense for when they do go out into the field, for them to look for that, to be more efficient in their job. Now, does that mean they're always right? No, because they can overlook someone. They can they can put the finger on the wrong person because they already made up their mind that they think this is the person who committed the crime, and they can actually overlook the actual person who committed the crime. They can actually put themselves in danger by not looking at the person who actually are the ones who are committing the violence, because they're overlooking that person because they've already made up their mind. They already have a learned bias. So it doesn't mean it's right, but I can understand why a police officer would have that learned bias. It's the same. If I live somewhere where 99.9% of the time I go out and I get harassed by a certain looking person, when I leave my house, that is the person I'm going to stay away from, because I learned that bias. Because the majority of my life, the majority of my experience, anytime I'm getting harassed, that is the person who's doing it. Of course, I'm going to learn a bias, and I'm going to say, I don't want to be around that person. Again, I'm a civilian and I'm not a police officer, so police officers should definitely be held on have higher standards. They should very much have way higher standards than a civilian. I believe that. I understand police officers are human beings. I understand that they are they have the same fight and flight syndrome, or scenario that happens in their brain when they're being put in danger. I understand that police officers are not perfect. They are flawed human beings, but I still think police officers should be held at a way higher standards than civilians. But I understand the whole bias thing, the learned bias thing. I still don't think that is the majority, and I still don't think that majority police officers are racist, and I still think it is very nearsighted to focus on just the racist part or racism when I think we're missing a bigger picture here. And that is what I already spoke about, which is I really think we need to strengthen the psychological, personality, and character evaluation tests that police officers should mandatorily have to go through to become police officers. And I think these tests should be given and done multiple times. I think they should be annual or semi-annual testing, and if any police officers have any type of red flags, they should be taken off the police force, or at least suspended, or given some sort of therapy or some sort of training. And I don't think it should be only sensitivity courses, or only these things where they have police officers go give ice cream cones to little black kids in neighborhoods to build up a better rapport, which I think those things are good. I think those sort of type of programs to build a better relationship with people in the community, so people will not have a bias or unlearn their bias towards police officers, and that they actually will be willing to cooperate with police officers that do work in those neighborhoods. I do think those programs are good, but I don't think we should stop there. I want to end this in saying, I hope you made it this far, as I know this is quite a long video, that I respect police officers to death. I respect them to death. They put their lives on the line, and the world would not be able to work properly if we didn't have some sort of law enforcement. I know the anarchists out there think I am wrong about this, but I do think we need to have some sort of justice system. My cousin is a police officer, and he is a really good man and a good father and a good husband. I think the majority of police officers are trying to do the best they can, but that doesn't mean that we can't do better. So that's it, guys. Tell me, guys, what you think. If you agree with me in any way, please comment in the comment section below. If you think I am full of shit, you can also feel free to comment in the comment section below. If you have any extra or any more knowledge about this situation or this topic, please help educate us, educate me, educate anybody who's watching this channel. Feel free to put a comment in the comment section below. And thank you for watching this video. If you like this video, please like it and share it on Twitter and Facebook and beyond. And if you want to continue having conversations like this with Moa, please subscribe. And if you subscribe, please hit that bell so you get the notifications when I do upload. And check out the links below. I do have a PayPal and a Patreon. You can help me upgrade this channel, because YouTube is definitely not helping me or supporting me, or you know what I mean. Anyway, also check out my Twitter and follow me on Twitter there. And if you like, you can also follow me on my second channel. I am traveling at the moment, and you can follow my travels and see another side of me. And you can also follow my travel Instagram. You can find that all over on my travel channel. And that's it, guys. Thank you, and peace.
I was broken from a young age, shaking my soul, game to the masses, writing my poems for the few that looked to me, took to me, shook to me, feeling me, singing from heart.